Welcome to the Rising Stars podcast, where we unpack trends and tips in the point of sale space and IT channel industry. My name is Kate Orara, and I am the Partner Development Manager at Star Micronics America. I've worked in the channel for almost 18 years and have met some fascinating people along the way. My goal for this podcast is to connect you with some of the most influential people in the channel space to provide you insight and inspiration to help your business succeed. My conversation with Colton Kaltenfeldt with POS Guys was super insightful, and I'm super impressed not only with what his company has to offer, but what Colton himself contributes to the development of partnerships within the retail and hospitality industries. Here's my 5-point preview of this episode to give you a bit of a taste of what to expect. First, the definition of the marketplace reseller and their rise, as well as that of the payment acquired resellers and what POS Guys has done to stand up to this threat. Here's a hint. When you win on price, you lose on price. Second, a strong recommendation for new software companies' go-to-market strategy through partnerships with companies like POS Guys. Third, software developers do a great job designing software, but perhaps they need to assure the end users are buying the correct hardware by connecting with a reseller like POS Guys to handle the sale on their behalf. Fourth, end users need and want support. POS Guys provides that contact point and saves software developers by fielding those questions while also collecting data to share with them to help them improve. And lastly, fifth, we take a look into the future of potential disruptors in the retail and hospitality technology industries and what resellers and software companies can expect. I do hope you enjoy this conversation with Colton. If you do, please do us and your friends a favor by sharing this episode with them. Enjoy! I am super excited to chat with our next guest here on the Rising Stars podcast, Colton Kaltenfeldt with POSguys.com. I've had the pleasure of working with Colton over the years with a few different companies, and he has such a great insight in the channel, as well as embraces the importance of how to partner with other companies to provide cohesive, prosperous solutions for end users in the retail and hospitality spaces. But I don't want to steal his thunder. So Colton, could you tell us a little bit about yourself and POS Guys?
Yeah, well, thanks for the intro, Kate. As you noted, my name is Colton. I'm the Director of Marketing here over at POS Guys. I've been here for about 3.5 years now. Started out as an account manager, sort of worked my way up, and I've sort of taken on this side of the business. And so it's been a ton of fun. POS Guys in general, we've been around for about 20 years. We're a value-added reseller based, primarily in the United States, but we can ship to Canada a little bit as well. We sort of work primarily in the retail hospitality sector. That's kind of been our vertical. But we've over the years sort of expanded out. So we have our fingers in a little bit of everything, but that retail hospitality point of sale space is still a home near and dear to our heart. So we do a lot of work there. Thanks for having me on, Kate. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And what I find amazing is your industry experience. So you've been 3.5 years in the industry, just start like fresh going right into POS Guys, and that was kind of like your first exposure into it.
Yeah, for sure. It's been a wild ride, definitely a learning curve, but I think I've picked it up pretty well.
No, you really have immersed yourself into it, and you come across to me as like a veteran. I mean, the fact that you're the director, you started off as an account manager 3.5 years ago, and now at the director level, I think that is very admirable. And I think again, it comes across when I talk with you. You really immerse yourself into the technology side of this industry, and I'm really excited to kind of converse with you a little bit more, dig into maybe your tips and tricks of your secret sauce of how you come to the go-to-market strategy.
Yeah, well, it's super easy when you have people like yourself putting out some great educational content like this. This is a sort of where I've picked up a lot of my knowledge, and so I'm super excited to be able to give back a little bit.
Awesome. Well, that's great to hear. So y'all, if you're listening and this is your first time, make sure you subscribe and go back and listen to the other episodes. Well, let's dive in a little bit. So how do you think POS Guys is innovative in the point of sale industry, and why?
Yeah, I think really at the end of the day, it kind of comes down to offering a wide range of products and having the knowledge and connections to really answer those questions that people have about those products and actually be able to build solutions with them. The industry has changed so much in the last couple of years, and the expectations of business owners now is really varied, right? You have businesses that want a really slick modern setup with integrated kiosks, mobile point of sale setups. They want software they can integrate with an e-commerce platform or like a associate task management system. They want all the bells and whistles. And then you'll have other owners who just want a computer that can talk to a printer and a cash drawer, payment device, and kind of keep track of their inventory, right? So you need to be able to sell to both of those customers nowadays. And you need to be dynamic enough to know when you need to find new gaps, fill new gaps in your solution. I think that that's one of the areas that we've really had a lot of success with. We've been very intentional over the last year, a couple of years rather, especially since the middle of the pandemic, with really going out, finding solid partners in the channel that we can rely on, and really investing in education and really looking for new hardware solutions and plugging those gaps. And I think we've really started to see that investment pay off. So I would say that that's how you stay innovative. Keep up with demands and keep your knowledge up. It's one thing to have 2,000 products on your website, but if you don't know anything about that, you can't intelligently talk about that. Customers know that. So that's where I would kind of start with that.
Awesome. Well, looking at your website, you guys kind of cover the full gamut. You cover the point of sale side, the AIDC side, the payment processing side. So is that something that you guys have always done, or is that an evolution that you just start, like, especially payment processing, that adding, did you just add that in, or what was that? How did that progress to where it is today?
Yeah, so we've always kind of had our foot in the door with those sorts of things. Very early on, payment processing was something that we really got into, was at one point a really large part of our business. Nowadays, not so much. The hardware side and the software side have really picked up. That's where we find a lot of passion. But MGM Solutions is our parent company, and that sort of started as a custom development operation. We were developing custom software applications for, a wider range of businesses. And so that sort of cross-discipline approach is kind of baked into the core of the company. And especially that's come in really handy now with, the sort of merge to e-commerce hybrid sort of setups, right? Where you kind of need to be able to develop and create solutions that talk between many different systems. And so definitely having that knack has helped us out a lot, I think.
Well, that kind of segues into my next question. So what is your definition of a marketplace reseller?
Oh boy, I could make a lot of people really angry depending on how I answer this, Kate.
Try to do it in as PC of a way as possible.
Yeah, to me, to us, a marketplace reseller is really somebody who, they put a listing up on a platform, upload some photos, and then when you order it, they send you a box and a tracking number. And that's about it. You might get a decent return process with whatever platform they're using, but that kind of depends. But they're not really adding extra value for the end user. And I think that that's the biggest distinction for us. And I think that 9 times out of 10, and maybe that's being a little too harsh, but if you were to actually get the person on the phone who listed the product and asked them if that product was compatible with like their point of sale system, there's a good chance they might not be able to tell you exactly what that works for. And I think that's the difference. I could kind of give like an anecdote. I was just poking around on Amazon. I don't know if I'm allowed to say their name, but I'm going to say it. And was looking at the profiles of some people that were selling some point of sale equipment. And I found this one company, and they were selling receipt printers and scanners, but then they were also selling toasters, ovens, and home decor and beds. And like, if you're a bed and breakfast, like maybe that's the guy for you. That's the person. But for the vast majority of people, I don't think that those are the people you want to be ordering your equipment from. But that's my personal opinion.
Okay. Well, and that's kind of, we see about 2 different types of resellers these days. You have the payment acquired reseller, where you don't really have a whole lot of product choices, or you have the marketplace reseller where there's no
product support, just like you said, you place the order and then there's a tracking number. So these are some threats that I've noticed, or that we've noticed in the industry. So how has POS guys been able to thrive in the industry with these external threats of the payment acquired and marketplace resellers?
Yeah, I think you gotta go back to the basics, and I think customer service 100% is it, right? There's no other way around it. Over the last 20 years, we've sort of built a reputation that's built on customer service and sort of having the ability to help just about anyone who gives us a call. And because of that, we've built a really solid base of customers who come to us time and time again and who refer us to new customers. And of course, there's also all the other work that we do to generate new business as well. But I won't lie, there is definitely a concern with the rise of payment acquired VARs and marketplace resellers. And we've definitely lost our share of deals to them. They're just able to list products for less than we are, and they don't really provide a lot of those value adds. And in a lot of the days, we do end up losing those businesses. When a customer mentions that pricing is a bit higher on some random reseller, we kind of always go back to, well, we're not the cheapest guy on the block, but we don't aim to be, and we're very upfront about that. But we say when you order from us, you're going to get support from start to finish, and you can rest confident knowing that if anything happens, we got your back, and you're not going to get that from a lot of other guys when you order. And not to mention, we're on the phone talking to you right now. Where's the other guy, right? And that's obviously applies to marketplace resellers. Payment acquired VARs are a little bit different because a lot of times they also are pairing on a software solution that in a lot of ways we can't support, especially from a software perspective. We can still offer that hardware support, of course. But I think that customer service point also does come into it a little bit, so long as they're not using proprietary hardware. There's a lot of customers that'll just go through them because it's easy. But there's a lot of customers who will also go through us because they like that extra little bit of support, and they like being able to call into, a relatively, I guess you're going to be able to call us and you're going to know the name of the person versus calling into a call center with Lord knows how many people, and you're going to get filtered through 16 different dialogue trees before you actually talk to somebody. And I think showing up and being intentional and really marketing and really hammering down that value add is what's kind of helped us carve out a niche and sort of keep our foot in the game.
Well, it's like you said, it's, you're not the cheapest, but you're very upfront about that. And you do kind of get what you pay for, unless you really want to bundle a scanner and a receipt printer with a toaster oven, I guess, then maybe that's the way to go.
Yeah, that's an innovative marketing solution right there. All in one. A true all in one. But no, I kind of go with an adage that a mentor of mine sort of told me early on, that if you win on price, you lose on price 100% of the time. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't always feel good, to lose. And there's always that temptation to try to compete on price, but, at the end of the day, we kind of have to accept that, that people have different priorities. But the people that value what we offer come to us time and time again.
Well, I think you guys, you've proven yourselves, like you said. I mean, you are thriving. I mean, yes, you're not going to win every single deal, and not going to win every single opportunity. And unfortunately, people, they're always going to look for the cheap knockoff products and see some random hardware that's sold on large marketplace websites, and it may or may not be conducive to what their goals are. So I kind of want to, I'm going to paint a picture. I'm a software company that's ready to launch my solution. What are my options? What are the options that you would give me to go to market, and what can POS guys offer me? And then also, what would you recommend that I do, or how can I be the most successful?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm going to assume that in this hypothetical scenario that they've already certified hardware and they have a working software package ready to go. Is that where we're at?
Hopefully, unless they are looking at some, like some fake, cheapo printer or something like that. I mean, maybe would that be something that you would recommend too? Like, hey, I want to go to market, but I'm not really sure what hardware. I mean, is that something that you guys get into recommending sometimes?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have people that are coming to us, at every stage of the journey. We've actually been investing a lot recently in our sort of software developer relationship. We've kind of built out a whole program. I'll get to the initial question, but if you're a brand new software person or a software developer, you've just started to develop the software, we can definitely help advise, on what software would be most appropriate for your company. We can kind of give you the lay of the land, kind of tell you who's moving, who's shaking. Oh, you're in this sort of vertical. Okay, these are the types of customers that we've worked with. Here are the type of things that they're ordering, and here are the concerns that they've had. Here's the common pain points. So we would recommend that you work with these types of software, or these types of hardware. And we can kind of be a little bit proactive about helping you avoid some of the supply chain constraints that we've seen a lot over the last couple of years. And thankfully, they're not nearly as bad now. But especially during the pandemic, that was one of the big value adds that we were able to provide to these software developers, is kind of some stability, right? And kind of giving them backup options and game plans. So that's if you're a brand new developer, right? If you already have a solution and you're ready to go, what we really offer is a fast track, easy solution to get hardware into the hands of your end users. You could go through, you could try to take rungs down, down in the channel and source the hardware directly, warehouse it yourself, and then ship it out to your end users and be liable for all of that. But that's not always the easiest things to do, especially for a software company that's just starting out. They don't have the labor capacity to handle that. So we can handle all of that. If you were to send someone to me today and they were like, hey, we have a package ready to go, I would say, great. All right. When are you looking to ship hardware? Oh, you have someone that needs to come out in a week? Okay. What hardware have you already worked with? Are you interested in other software solutions moving into the future? Because if so, let's start working on that so that those are ready when you need them. But in terms of the hardware you have now, we can either sell directly to your end users through a white label service, and we'll handle all the pre-sale support. We'll answer and kind of field those questions and take that off your plate, because I'm sure you're busy developing your software and selling new accounts. You don't want to be bogged down with the process of selling a receipt printer to every single one of your customers and trying to figure out the difference between a TSP 103 and a TSP 104. What's the difference between this barcode scanner and this barcode scanner? We can handle all of that, of course. Or if you really wanted to sort of take charge and you wanted to hold the whole process, right? We could send bulk orders directly to your warehouse or your office, or however you have that set up. We can still sort of advise that, and we can kind of help manage the logistics of that. Most of our customers most of our partners rather, go through the first option. They don't want the headache of it, and that's where I found most people to be pretty successful, is when they focus on the software or we focus on the hardware. And then either option, depending on how you go, we always have that customer support element where we're always going to be able to support that hardware. That's kind of our guarantee. And so we can take that off your plate as well. And that kind of just speeds up the go-to-market approach, right? You obviously still want to know the product and you want to have some competence with it, but you don't have to put all of that burden on yourself, knowing the ins and outs of everything and how to address every single setup that you might run into. And that's kind of where we fill in. Does that sort of answer the question that you were looking for there, Kate?
Yeah, no, it actually kind of segues into, something I wanted to bring up, because STAR is a very strong integrations team, and we work with several software companies that reach out to us and say, hey, I want to integrate my software with your hardware. And one of our large software company partners actually reached out to you and a few others, basically, because we have the kind of the same program. We try to connect people, we try to connect partnerships, and they reached out to you and a few others to be a source to interview, to basically be a source of selling of the hardware on its behalf to its end users. And congratulations, you won that opportunity.
Thank you.
So what does POS, not that you have to give away the barn, but what does POS Guys offer software companies to make partnerships mutually beneficial? And what are the next steps taken once the software company partners with you?
Yeah. Well, and thanks again for sending that over. That was a really fun project to work on sort of collaborate with them to sort of see what exact solution was going to fit their needs. I had a conversation with the person that I was chatting with at that company, and they had sort of expressed that one of the things that sort of won over was that we kind of had a solution to fit every one of their needs. They needed kind of what I alluded to earlier. They needed a wide set of products, and they needed someone who knew how to support those now. And that's sort of where we were able to sort of get our foot in the door with that deal, was kind of saying, yes, you need this, 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 and this. You need a scale. You need this. You need networking equipment. Perfect. We got that. We got that set up, and then they wanted some flexibility with exactly how the ordering process worked. They decided on sort of the first option that we talked about earlier, where we would build them a custom landing page. They could send their end users. The end users would order the equipment. They could obviously talk to someone beforehand or after the fact once it's ordered. And we just made it really simple for them. And I think that that's where we won that deal, right? Was one, being able to offer everything they needed, and two, having the flexibility and the nimbleness to sort of work with their requirements, right? Especially with some of these larger software companies, there's lots of red tape and hoops that you need to sort of jump through in order to work best in their system. And the better that you can accommodate those and be nimble rather, the better chance you'll have at those sorts of things. And I think that that's where we really struck out. In terms of the next step for them, we're currently in that process. Generally what we do is we sit down, have a conversation, say, all right, what hardware do you want to offer right now? And so we built out a list, got out an Excel spreadsheet, worked on it together, found the 15 things that they immediately wanted to answer or offer. And then they were like, okay, but we also want to offer these things. We want to offer a KDS. We want to offer a better scale option. We want to find a better solution for label printing. Do you think you could help us out with that? We said, absolutely. So we started doing research. We're sort of working with them and sending them some demos to sort of help, narrow in on some of those solutions. And then, of course, from that, we build the page. There's obviously a contract that needs to be in place to kind of make sure everyone really understands, what each side is bringing to the table. And then it's just ongoing cadence, ongoing conversation. Hey, what's working for your end users? Hey, we've noticed that 5 of your end users have come to us with this particular issue. What can we do to, solve that issue and make sure it doesn't happen again? Hey, I know that you have this particular product on your site or on your landing page, but we're projecting and we're seeing that this might go out of stock for a little while. Do you want to get a stocking order in to kind of make sure that stock is going to be there? Or do we want to transition and find an alternative until stock on that stabilizes? Let's game plan together. And so those are sort of the next steps in the ongoing conversations that you need to have to be a good partner. These software companies are nimble and they're changing all the time. The industry is changing all the time, and you need to make sure that you have a process in place to keep up with that, right? And kind of communicate those changes. So I think that's how we won that deal and kind of how we keep some of these larger clients.
So you talk about a little bit about the evolution of this industry and how it's changing. So how do you see the role of resellers and software companies evolving in this rapidly changing landscape of point of sale?
For sure. Yeah. That's a really good question, Kate. I think, and this has always sort of been the case, but it's more important now, that the role between resellers and software companies is really a partnership. I think that you really need to hammer down on that. And it kind of goes back to what I was mentioning earlier, of having these consistent conversations and sort of being an advisor to them and saying, hey, here's what's changing in the point of sale industry. Maybe they're not plugged into it every single day because they're busy, obviously, selling their software and developing software and building out that base. So that's really where we need to come in and say, hey, we see these changes happening. Hey, have you heard about this new concept, this new form of technology that's coming out? Is your software, going to be competitive with that? Are you going to be able to maintain market share with your end users? And so we sort of help play that role, right? Of making sure that their software is the most successful it can be. So obviously if it's successful, we're successful, right? And I think, it's especially important nowadays because end users and customers, right? They don't see us as a separate entity from the software company in a lot of times. When we mess up, that reflects poorly on the software company. So we really need to have very consistent conversation, and have very consistent communication about that. And so I think that that's really where we play in, right? It's sort of helping them keep up with those changing rules and sort of not just being a person that they go to sell hardware and that's the only conversation we have. Hey, I saw you sent over 15 customers this month and here's what they bought. Thanks for that. It's also, hey, we sold these. Maybe you should also consider integrating this with your software, or hey, we've heard 3 of your customers mention that they wish you did this and that they were considering moving to a different software offering because you didn't offer this. Let's chat about that because customers tend to be a little more open with us than with a software developer sometimes about some of the gripes that they have. So I think that that's sort of the role that you can play in that space.
Well, I've harped on this before. I probably sound like a broken record to those that do subscribe and listen to the podcast regularly, that this landscape, if you don't partner, you're missing out, like to the point of you may not have a business if you don't partner. So how do you foster that strong collaboration between the hardware manufacturer, software companies, and reseller, that relationship in your operation?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a matchmaking service, right? Definitely between the hardware and the ISVs. There's so many different options there's so many different manufacturer options they can choose from, and so it's important to be able to pair them with somebody that they know they're going to be successful with. And I think the best way to foster that is to show, hey, both sides of this equation can bring value, right? Obviously, from a manufacturer standpoint, the software company is going to inevitably create sales for your product. But nowadays, and Star's done a great job about this, hardware manufacturers need to do more than just build a good printer, right? They have to offer those integration services and they have to offer extra incentives for softwares and resellers to go with them. And Star's really killed it with their delegate program. And their integrations team. I've chatted with a number of your folks and we've done some content in the past. They've always been amazing, top-notch professionals. So it's been really easy, right? When I go to a software company and they're like, hey, we're using this other printer right now. Boy, we really wish we had a printer that could communicate over the cloud and would do that really easy. And I can say, oh, I know just the person to connect you with and can instantly connect that and create that value add. And that makes us look good, right? Or, if you have a software company that wants to partner with, they want to be able to offer some other part of their software, but they don't want to invest all of the time and energy it would take to develop that feature. Say, automated task management, right, in a retail environment, or, an integration with an e-commerce company. A lot of the times we have a Rolodex of software partners that have come to us, that do a ton of different things. And we can sort of partner those together, right? And we've done that on a couple of occasions where we've introduced different software companies that we work with. Some work with different hardware. We try to pair up the best that we can and say, hey, our software company that we're working with wants to do task management, or they want to integrate RFID into their retail setup. Walmart's doing that, and it's the big new push, the buzzword in the day. But you don't want to go through all the work to get your software up and ready to go to do that. Maybe there's a beneficial partnership here where we could connect your end users with this company, and simplify your life and make everybody a little bit happy. Everyone gets a little extra income. Everybody's happy about the solution because everybody's being equally benefited from it. And of course, that benefits the hardware manufacturer as well. Makes you all look good, and generates ultimately more hardware sales because of it. And so I think that that's how you foster collaboration, right? You got to be a matchmaker. You got to know who's doing what, and you got to know when this is too much or this is out of our point of sale guy's wheelhouse. Let's see if we can build some cross-company relationships that are going to benefit everybody.
Well, and you kind of touched on a little bit. So you talked about cloud a little bit, and we are now in an era of cloud computing and SaaS. That's just kind of the whole thing right now. So what opportunities and challenges do you see for software companies in your domain?
Yeah, I think that the proliferation of choice has really been a challenge for software companies nowadays. You have a point of sale system for just about everything. I talked with a software developer a couple weeks ago who develops point of sale systems for horse auctions. Very niche, and I would have never thought that someone would have developed a bespoke software solution for horse auctions, but they did. And that's just like one example of the hundreds of different things that I've seen. And so I think that a challenge for SaaS companies, right, is being able to keep up and being able to compete for market share. Especially, when that's more so for the smaller guys. You have the Squares and the Clovers and the Toasts of the world that are just juggernauts, and they can really align the whole cycle, right? So they can offer the payment processing, they can offer the hardware, they can do HR, they do everything, right? And we've certainly seen a little bit of trouble with competing against some of those solutions because they just offer darn everything down the whole chain, and they make it super easy. You pay $90 a month, they send you everything. And a lot of software companies can't compete with that. They don't have the capacity. And obviously the solution to that is to get niche, get specific, make horse auction management software. And so you kind of get a lot of guys that are stuck in the middle. They're trying to develop more of a general point of sale solution. They don't want to put all of their chips in horse auction software or electronic store software, but they also can't scale to be a Square, right? And so that's where working with someone like us really helps, right? We can kind of see where they're at and sort of advise where we see strategic openings. Where are we seeing a lot of demand right now? These are the type of customers that have called in, hey, we've seen a 40% increase in customers in this vertical ordering, and they want this solution or they want this feature. Your software doesn't do that, or your software does do that. Hey, you might want to look at positioning some marketing at this vertical. You might have some competitive edge there. And so I think that that's sort of where the challenges are. And then I guess opportunities wise, for these companies, we are seeing more people, obviously more businesses, especially we are in a little bit of a uncertain economic time right now. Business is closed, business is open. There's always new customers. And kind of the advantage with so many different software companies is that people aren't so certain about sticking with a single software solution for the long haul. Back when I first started, and even before my time, I've only been here 3.5, but there's some folks that have been here for 15, 20 years from the beginning. And it used to be that if you found a point of sale software that you liked, you loaded that on your Windows device, and you bought hardware to support it, and you used that for 10 years because that's what you used. But nowadays, with so many SaaS offerings and so many software companies integrating for the same hardware, people are less likely to stick with your software if they're not happy. And that's both a challenge, but also an opportunity. If you have a software that's very similar to someone else's software and you have just a slight competitive edge, there's a chance that you'll win out on that and you'll gain new clients. Of course, the challenge is continuing to deliver on that and keep that client. So definitely the opportunities and challenges are all over the place. It's all kind of a give and take sort of thing. But that's sort of the landscape that I see it as I see it.
So in what ways do you foresee the industry being disrupted in the next decade? And how do you think resellers and software companies prepare for or drive that disruption?
Yeah, my gosh, that is the golden question. If I had the right answer to this, I'd make a lot of money.
Out and try to envision it.
Yeah, yeah. I think outside of large scale economic, macroeconomic factors, obviously that can have a huge impact on the industry. I think I'm going to be really interested to see, what things like AI really are bringing to the table. Being able to really be very sophisticated about how, software is going to be able to be very sophisticated and how it targets, customers. Being able to track data and see, what you can best add on to them, or being more intelligent about, managing inventory on, what assets do you have and sort of what should I order based on sales projections. And, obviously that technology is here now, but I'm very interested to see long term how that happens and that sort of continues. And then probably just, the further rise of e-commerce. We've definitely, the pandemic pushed that ahead so much further than anyone in this industry could have ever expected. But I think we're going to continue to see more of that, right? We're getting more and more calls every day from brick and mortar storefronts that want to open up an e-commerce platform, because they need to compete. And we're going to see more of that as we kind of continue on. And then, of course, as we kind of talked about earlier, these big marketplace giants, the Amazons of the world, what's the next Amazon, right? And how are we in this point of sale industry going to compete with that? And how are we going to compete with these businesses? How are we going to be able to provide for these businesses that are developing more e-commerce type solutions, who also have more Amazon type options? How are we going to be able to adapt, and how are we going to be able to make ourselves competitive in an environment like that? I think customer service and having the know-how obviously gets us there. But how long is it before something like AI can help build solutions for people without us really needing to do anything, right? I know like Google is coming out with their new Bard, or not Bard. Does Google have Bard? They do. Yes, they do. So many options nowadays. I was typing things the other day, and they have a new generative search feed, right, in line in the search bar or in the search field that helps answer those questions. And so what happens when Google has all the answers, and our knowledge that we've collectively built in this industry over the past couple decades, all of a sudden is able to be easily synthesized down and given to people without our input, right? Those are the types of things that we're going to have to grapple with. And I don't know if I have a good answer on how to be prepared for those sorts of things, because those are really tough nuts to crack. But I think, the more we can hammer down on the customer service side, I think the better we're all going to be. A lot of people are going to be fine with just working with a computer, pushing a button and reading their own documentation, but you're still going to have these large scale opportunities where everything's going to be more integrated, more, more intelligent. Everything's going to talk with each other. And obviously that's not something that Bard or ChatGPT or whatever the next AI thing is, right, is going to be able to help build. And that's where we're still going to find an advantage, is being able to be smart and build solutions that allow everything to talk to each other on a very rapidly changing world.
Absolutely. And also the next question I kind of have is, with evolving business models like subscription services and pay as you go, how do you see the monetization strategies for POS software changing, and what should software companies be considering?
Yeah. I think the biggest change that we've seen over the last couple of years has definitely been, a closer relationship between payment processing companies and software vendors. It used to be, 5-10 years ago, you could, those were always separate, or for the most part they were. You had a lot more options. And nowadays, a lot of the software nowadays, and especially SaaS type software, it's no, you need to use our payment processing company. You need to use us, our POS Pay, or whatever they brand it. And I think in a lot of ways, that's what end users kind of prefer almost. It makes it easy. Being able to just get the terminal sent and it's already ready to go. They don't have to work with another third-party company and figuring out what gateway you want to use and all of the headaches that come with that. So I think that that's one of the big sort of evolutions we've seen is more of a reliance on that. And I think you're seeing some pretty major players continuing to gobble up market share because of that. And so I think that that's where we're seeing the biggest change is sort of that. And I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. So yeah, that's how I'd answer that.
All right, I have one more question, well, maybe two more questions, but one more question. Which businesses or business executives should contact you to get the full benefits of the POS Guys offering?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you just look at the data, we are primarily talking with either IT managers or directly with owners of companies, and we kind of target the SMB space. So that makes a lot of sense. So I would say, if you're, more of a smaller business, obviously the owner is going to be talking to us and they're going to get the most benefit. But if you're a larger organization, I think, obviously IT managers, but also at the franchise level, we've been working a lot with like franchise managers, the people that are directly onboarding franchises. We've seen a big increase in that sort of, in those types of people reaching out to us. And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? They're not at the super high up level, but they're the people that are directly working day in and day out with the end users that we ultimately end up working with. And from those communications and that work, we do a good job and our sort of name sort of gets compressively pulled up the chain until we're talking with, global directors of ITs and whatnot. So I guess it really depends on the size and scale of the business. It really varies.
Okay. Well, I really appreciate your time. Colton, how can people find you and more about POS Guys?
Yeah, so the best way is going to go to our website, posguys.com. That's guys with an S. You can also give us a call. The number is 800-903-6571. We're open, during normal business hours, Monday through Friday. So you could definitely give us a call. We can make sure you get connected with the right person. And then of course you can also email sales@posguys.com. So 3 different options for you, depending on how you prefer to communicate. And we'd be more than happy to help sort of walk you through any solutions that you're trying to build or any pain points that you're currently running into.
Perfect. Well, thank you again so much for your time today, Colton. I truly appreciate it. And I hope all y'all listeners out there learned a little something about some go-to-market strategies for software companies and the importance of partnerships with companies like POS Guys. I think that this was a great conversation, and I really think it's, like I said, you bring such a wealth of knowledge to this channel. I'm so glad to have the opportunity to work with you.
Of course. Well, and Kate, thank you so much for inviting me on. I've had a ton of fun, and I hope you have a great day.
Thank you.
For more about STAR, visit us at starmicronics.com, where we also have a super informative blog, or follow us on all our social media platforms on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, all of those. Don't forget to subscribe and please leave us a review. We love to hear from you all. And that's it for this episode of Rising Stars Podcast. I'm Kate Orara, and I will see you next time.